Hello and welcome to Balls on a Tray, the inexplicably named gaming podcast. I'm Tony Chandler and we're recording this Season 3, Episode 15 on the evening of Wednesday, the 28th of March, 2018. We're back to our normal day. Hello, Simon.
Hi, Tony. How you doing?
I'm all right. How's things?
Pretty good. Nothing unusual's happened to me, really. Last couple of weeks. That in itself is unusual. I seem to have a fractured toe, which happened during football. It felt like it was just bruised, but it's not really getting much better. Well, it's getting better, but it still hurts when I walk around. Now I walk with a limp, which makes me feel even older. And it's the sort of thing that I feel like this would be the sort of thing that should happen to me in maybe 20 or 30 years' time. I feel like it. I don't think I should have a fractured toe now.
To be fair, when you're like 70 or 80, I doubt you'll be playing football.
What you say? That?
No, but you fracture your toe just walking around, don't you?
I just like the way you completely missed your massively old joke.
Yeah, you see, the problem is, Tony, that actually, numerically, that makes sense to me. Thanks.
Yeah, but Simon's like 12. Something like 12. I don't know how old he actually is, but he looks about 12.
They took a work picture of me, actually. I wasn't happy with the picture they had of me for the website, so I got them to take another one, and they sent me the one they wanted to use, and I just looked at the picture and thought, that isn't what I look like, is it? I look like I'd taken just so much heroin. I feel like I'm melting. Like my face is melting every day.
I have to say that is unusual, because you don't normally look like you've taken so much heroin. You just normally look like you've taken, like your average amount of heroin.
Just enough heroin. That's my mantra.
Well, what we're talking about age, actually, maybe now's a good time to introduce our special guest this evening, Mr. Jonny Cox. Hello, Johnny.
How you doing? All right?
Yes, yeah, not bad. I mainly made the age crack there because I believe you just had a milestone birthday.
I did, yeah. I'm now 30 years old.
Fuck's sake.
And
dear God.
Literally, I've had a week's worth of people saying, right, your life's fucked now. Childhood's over. You're going to slowly decline and die in the next few decades. And there's a lot of people, right? So, I mean, try and help me out here, but a lot of people say that I look older than I am. Right, so I was always the one that used to get like alcohol when I was like 16, 17. What was you going to say, Tony, before you...
I was going to say I was actually surprised when I found out it was your 30th the other day, but I didn't think you were many years older than that, but maybe a couple.
Yeah,
so that's not too bad.
Well, there's a couple of things in my life that have sort of made me feel like I do look older than I am. So one was, I used to be able to get drink when we was kids, like 16, 17, go down the corner shop, use my brother's birthday, no problem. Did
you always have that stubble? You got quite a lot of designer stubble going on. Did you have that from quite a young age? Because that must have been a godsend for getting booze.
I wouldn't say it's designer, I say it's more lazy.
No, but it looks good though. It looks sharp.
Thank you. I'm on point. Good job on the podcast. No one else can see that. And then, like, when I was 21, right? So, it was 21st birthday. I'd done a skydive, right? And when I said, "Oh, it's for my 21st birthday," and they said, "Fuck me, did you come out of the womb when you was 10 years old?" I thought that really old. And then this year, when everyone's going, "Congratulations," because Facebook tells them that I'm 30 years old, everyone's saying, "I can't believe you're not 40, fuckers." So I've defriended them. And I don't want to know him anymore. That
might be because you hang about with older folks like me, for example, because I'm 40 this year, so I never realised I was like a decade older than you.
You say hang around. I do hang around with quite a few old people.
Can we stop saying old people?
Do you know what? Do I say that louder for you, John? Sorry, old people.
Do you know what will make you laugh? Right? And looking back on it now, it seems so ludicrous. Right? When I'm coming up to 40, and I'm like, I don't really feel like 40 is an old age anymore because I'm close to it. And I think everyone's like that. When you're nearly 30, you think, fucking hell, that's the end of the pensions and buses and shit like that next. And then you get near 40 and you think, well, I don't feel like I'm 40. And then you get near 50, I don't feel like I'm 50. And I feel like that.
I do generally think people. I mean, I remember when you were a kid.
People are younger, older,
yeah,
aren't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I feel like 30s the new 20. That's what I'm saying.
Well, you see 70-year-olds knocking about these days, and
Yeah.
they're absolutely fine, having a great time. It used to be you were 70, you were in a home sitting there waiting to die.
Yeah,
Nowadays, you're like 20 more years of having fucking skydiving and all kinds of bollocks.
Yeah.
When I was 30, I've got a video of it, and to tell you how old, for anyone who's a bit techie, this will definitely age how long ago that was. I've got a video recorded on a Nokia in .3GP format. Right, and it's the shittiest video you've ever seen. That's for my 30th birthday, and it's a video of me drunkenly drop kicking a pack of adult nappies down a fire escape because some friends of mine bought me a pack of adult nappies for my 30th birthday because it was a joke that I was such an old bastard. And I'm like, 30. When I look back on it now, I'm like, I was not even born. Didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, I remember when we were kids and like my mum and dad said, "Oh, I remember when the microwave was on Tomorrow's World." Like, I'm finding like I employ people that are 16, 17 years old, and I'm saying like I remember when the internet was first invented, and they was like, "Fuck me, I can't remember a time before Facebook and all that kind of stuff."
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had a conversation with a lad in the Apple store. He's this Asian guy with a big beard, and I thought he was older because of the big beard. And I was chatting to him, and I was like, "Oh, I remember when I got my first iPhone," and he was like, "Oh, if I'd have had one then, I had to be saving up on my paper round." And then I said, "How old are you?" And he's like, "I'm like 20." I'm like, "Fuck's sake."
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I always thought to myself, I'd never be like one of those people that would sort of go, "God, remember 10 years ago when we used to all do this by hand on pieces of paper." I'm finding that the more I speak to these people, the older and more decrepit I sound.
The worst thing was when I went away on this work business. You remember I missed a couple of podcasts. I was away for a long time, and I was out there with a young lad who's like early 20s, and then there's me sort of coming up to 40, and then an older guy who's like probably sort of mid 50s, and I would just like make jokes and little references to things. And the older guy would get them, but the younger guy would have no clue. He just looked blankly at me. Like somebody mentioned Vienna, right, the place. And I said, that means nothing to me. And me and the older guy had a laugh, right? And he was like, look at us going, what are you on about? And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, you weren't even born when that came out, were you? It's like, it's depressing.
Weirdly enough, like we went on holiday 3 years ago now, and there's a girl there, a young girl, and we was talking about Friends. And and we said, oh, like, remember that from Friends? And she was like, I was born in 2005. She wasn't even alive when it was live on TV. That's how young.
I've been rewatching Friends, and it's quite funny to see all the people coming up, like Chuck from Better Call Saul.
Yeah,
in an episode I saw there, and that's a really butch lesbian lady from Orange Is the New Black. She chats up Phoebe, and it's amazing how many people are in it. It's like, and the music and stuff, it's so dated, but it's still pretty funny.
Yeah, amazing.
Even though that show caused me a lot of grief when I was younger because my surname being Chandler, I used to get all the Chandler Bing jokes. I still do, actually, but only from old fuckers. You see, that is one good thing about young people not understanding old references.
Your name has outgrown an old 90s, early 2000s sitcom.
That's the one, yeah. Simon, you're very quiet this evening.
Just taking it all in. I've been watching, on the subject of TV shows, I've been watching Mad Men recently. I'd never watched it. Well,
I never got into that.
I always thought it's always been there, it's been there for it started in 2007, I think, so 10, 11 years. And I always looked at it and thought, I don't know, it looks a bit sort of mainstream for me. I like to watch crapper things that are aimed at society's outsiders. But I finally sort of stepped up and watched it. And honestly, after 10 minutes, I thought, this is fantastic. I absolutely love it. So I'm in season 2 now. It's on Netflix.
I watched 3 or 4 episodes. It just didn't grab me at all. Just couldn't get into it.
Yeah, because most of the cast of LA Noire are in that, aren't they? I think.
Well, Cosgrove is Phelps, and I don't know. I can't remember any other characters from. I can remember the singer from LA Noire. I can't remember too many other characters, to be honest. There's the other character you play as. I can't remember if he's in Mad Men. Yeah. I think there's at least 2, definitely, because I think that some of the people you interview are in Mad Men.
Yeah, and similar to you talking about that. So do you feel, because it's quite a higher brow TV show, is that correct to say?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I'd say it's higher brow. What I will say is it's really smart. Like There's two good examples actually. There's an episode where one character gets revenge on another. It's kind of like a sort of petty revenge, but they basically pay off another character at the start of the episode, and then there's this payoff at the end, and it never goes back and says, "Oh, you remember they paid off that first character?" It just expects you to remember that. Usually in a TV show, it'd spell it out, so it kind of treats the audience with quite a lot of respect that I certainly haven't earned. And there was another moment. There was in the episode I was watching today. There was a moment where a guy opened his colleague's payslip to see how much he earned, and then was disappointed by what he saw, but he ripped the envelope, and he also ripped his own envelope as he opened it, so he needed to get another envelope for the payslip to seal it back up. And as I was watching it, and he was panicking, as I was watching it, I was thinking, you should just, like, throw it away, because they'll give him another payslip. And then he went and got advice from a character, and that character gave that advice. It's not, at no point have I been watching Mad Men and thought, well, apart from that one point, which was then in the next scene sort of dealt with, I've never been watching it and thinking, why on earth are they doing that? Why aren't they doing this? And it's pretty rare for a TV show. I'm sure there are all sorts of inconsistencies, but it makes me think it's smart.
Yeah,
so that's good.
Well, actually, funny you say it. So I started Suits recently. Have any of you watched Suits at all?
I've seen a bit of Suits, yeah.
Yeah, so me and the wife just started watching the other day, and similarly, I mean, tell me different, side, because I haven't seen Mad Men, but I feel a little bit more, smarter for watching it. I mean, they've been talking about this guy called Alpha David for like most of the series, right? And I actually had to go and look up online, and it's Affidavit, which is kind of
an affidavit. Yeah.
an affidavit. And I was like, when are we going to meet Alpha David? Like, it seems like he pops up. They go, like, they've been slapped by an Alpha David. I was like, right, this guy seems like a hard ass. So I've had to look up on Google a couple of terms.
Like lawyer.
What is a suit? But yeah, no, it's really good actually. I'm really enjoying it.
Suits. Yeah, I got along with that. Suits is more of a legal thing, but it also has some of the. I quite like as I'm getting older, and I'm lying and cheating my way up through organisations. I think that I'm really starting to appreciate business,
corporate,
stuff like so. Like in Mad Men, there's one or two moments where they'll be putting into action stuff. So there's this book by How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's by Dale Carnegie, but it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a very famous book, and I've read it a couple of times. And some of that stuff is put into play in Mad Men to quite impressive effect. And additionally, there's other moments where there's one moment where a character does something and his line manager gets really pissed off and says he's going to fire him. And then he gets talked out of it by one of the senior partners. But when they go back and speak to the guy, they tell the initial guy, that his line manager fought for him tooth and nail to keep his job, which is a barefaced lie. But at no point in the show do they have a scene where they're like, right, I'm going to tell him the not truth because it's the best thing for the company. They just do it, scene over, and move on, and they leave you kind of thinking about it. So often, the start of the next scene, I'll be thinking about what I just saw and kind of figuring it out, because I'm always a little bit behind the writers. That's pretty rare. Like I just finished watching Jessica Jones on Netflix, which was a good show, and it was David Tennant. The first series, David Tennant plays a really good villain. But the difference in quality, as good as Jessica Jones was a totally fine TV show, but you go to something like Mad Men, it's just the level of quality is just so much better.
I'll have to try it again, I think, and see if I can get into it, because everyone raves about it.
I have gone to bed I've woken up with hangovers on weekdays a couple of times, because every single scene they're drinking whiskey, and right next to my TV I've got this bottle of whiskey, nice bottle of whiskey that my sister and her husband bought me at Christmas, and I just keep pouring myself a glass. I'll be watching it about 11 in the evening, and I'll just have a quick couple of whiskeys while I'm watching Mad Men, and this is after a glass of wine or whatever with dinner, and I wake up in the morning, I've got a little bit of a hangover.
Is that called passive drinking?
Yeah. I think that when you sort of see that on TV and you think they're in these like $10,000 suits and they've got their sharp bottle of scotch and like they're standing there and they're looking all fucking cool, and then when you watch it, you look like a chav in your
in my pants with my Jaeger bomb.
Yeah.
Oh man, do you know what? There's a little story. Something happened to me that I've been really wanting to mention. I was hoping that there would be a moment it would organically fit into the podcast, but there isn't, so I'm just going to say it anyway. So a week or so ago, I was driving home and I stopped in a petrol station just to get some food because there's like a little M&S there. The one up in Hemel, Johnny, you might know it, just off the M1. Anyway, I stopped in there, and as I was getting back in the car, reversing out, this guy sort of like comes waving at me, and I thought, oh, shit, maybe I've dropped my wallet or something. Anyway, I wind the window down, and do you know what? I nearly did the winding the window down gesture, which is another sign that you're quite old. If you've ever actually wound a window down and it's not electric, then that's, people will go, why are you doing that wanking gesture when you're saying you're winding your window down? That's what young people say.
Was his name Alpha David and he come and hit you in the face?
That's right. No. Anyway, and this guy comes over. When he gets close, I realise he's a sort of scruffy guy, and I think he's homeless, right? And I was like, and I sort of reached in my pocket and thought maybe I'll give him a pound or something. And he's like, excuse me, mate, can you help me? And I was like, okay, yeah. And he says basically, oh, can you give me a lift down to the Magic Roundabout? Which is like, I don't know, like a mile. And I was kind of like, I didn't really want to, right? And I was kind of completely stuck, and I just couldn't think of any excuse. It was freezing, it was really, really cold, and I thought, do you know what? I can't think of a single reason why I shouldn't, right? So I said, okay then, and I let him get in the car. So he gets in the car and he's chatting away. He's quite friendly, actually quite nice. And he was saying, like I've not had to sleep on the streets too many times. So I'm sleeping at other people's houses. And, but, I said, and he wanted to get to his cousins, he was saying, so that he could sleep there overnight. And all this. Anyway, I took him down to the roundabout and I dropped him off, and it was all fine. But I was a bit worried about it, obviously a bit nervous. I was sort of there thinking he's going to steal my phone or mug me or something, and he was a perfectly decent bloke. And that's the thing, isn't it? You don't know. You talk about that fear. I felt bad about it afterwards, but then if he had stabbed me or mugged me, I would have been, fuck's sake, why did I do that? So it was one of these things. But anyway, as we're driving along, he's making a bit of small talk. I do like the football. I said, I never really got into it. And he's like, oh yeah, I find it. If your dad's not into it, you're probably not into it. And I'm like, yeah, actually, that's true. My dad wasn't that bothered. We're chatting away. And so you on your way back from work? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, software. And he's like, well, that's a good job. And I said, yeah. And then I went, and I had to bite my tongue to stop myself from saying the line I say to everyone when they say, you've got a good job. I very nearly said to this guy, it keeps me off the streets. And I literally opened my mouth to say it, and I kind of almost like stuck my whole fist in. And yeah, it's a good job. But fuck, I so nearly said to an actual homeless person, it keeps me off the streets. Because that's just a line I use for everybody when they say, oh, you got a good job. Oh, it keeps me off the streets.
Oh, you've had a good laugh about that.
Oh, I don't know if he would have appreciated it.
Write him a check for 50 quid and walk away with him exclaiming, I don't have a bank account.
Before you got to the end of that story, I thought you was going to say, and he didn't really leave, and here he is, his homeless Bob. Come on, homeless Bob.
I'll tell you what the funny thing was, when I dropped him off, he said, do you want anything for giving me a ride? And I was like,
blowjob.
Why would you're not the only person to have said that, like, and I think genuinely he was offering me some money for giving him a lift, and I was like, seriously, like, the guy's homeless and I'm going to take his money. That was crazy. I always thought that was quite nice, a nice gesture that he
so
offered.
How much did you charge him?
Just £8.
What did you say? You could have got an
it's only a short trip, but no, seriously, though, I just couldn't get over that. But honestly, that man, I nearly said to him, keeps him off the streets. Oh fuck! Thank God I caught it. Like, when you've listened to this podcast, right, and you've been on it, I don't generally manage to stop myself from saying whatever comes out into my head. So I was a bit amazed I managed to stop that one. But yeah, that was nearly a very, very embarrassing moment. It could have been like a very stony silence for like the last half of the trip. Right. So, Simon, you've not raised anything about crisps or sweets or anything today.
No, sorry about that. I can talk to you about crisps a little bit. So there's Walkers have brought out a new range of Max Strong crisps. I think they're ruffled. And what would you say? They're crinkled. And they're quite spicy, and they're designed to be eaten with beer. And I had some of those during a couple of football matches, and I highly recommend them. They're pretty tasty. So they're the new crisp kid on the block. And there's 3 different spices, and the medium spice, which is still quite spicy, is like a hot wings one. That's the one I recommend, hot chicken wing. So that's my top tip for crisps this time out.
So there we go, Simon's Snack Corner. Tune in next time, folks. All right, well, I suppose we probably better go on and actually talk a little bit about some games of some sort. So Johnny, do you want to kick us off, seeing as you're the guest?
Yeah, thanks. I have been playing a really new game called Burnout Don't know whether you've heard of it. So yeah, playing Burnout Remastered or Burnout Paradise Remastered. I actually platinumed the game today. I didn't really miss it first time round. I just didn't really give it the attention it deserved. It was back in the day when Call of Duty just kind of ruled my world. So I thought I'm actually going to give it the attention it deserves today, because everyone said how much of a classic it is, and it's brilliant fun. And genuinely, it's brilliant. It's really good fun as an arcade. As far as arcade races go, it's really, really, really good. Really good. And I think races bore me. Really do bore me. I'm just not into them. Sorry, John. Just not.
John's doing that face I was doing last time about Shadow of the Colossus. Like you just said, I fucked your mum and she was shit. That's the face he was doing.
I'm just. I get bored. I get bored very quickly with races, and it has to have like a fun twist or something a bit different or a gimmick that keeps me coming back. Like GTA is pretty good because I really enjoyed the races in GTA because of the company that we had, and also it's a bit different because it's not just solely racing. But Burnout, I've played Burnout since the first one, and I've enjoyed each and every one. But being away from it for 10 years just made me realise how much I missed it. I think it's really, really good. Now, I think you've been playing as well, haven't you, John?
Yeah. I'm some idiot recorded a video and sort of rabbited on about it for a bit as well. I don't know if you've seen that. I've been playing it, and as I said on the sticky bit, there are a couple of bits which you're like, oh yeah, okay, but genuinely, no. As I said, it stands up for it as a game of that age. It stands up incredibly well, and I think it's because it pretty much epitomized that thing at that time and became the benchmark for that type of racing game. Everything that came afterwards, which did a similar thing, was always compared to it. Oh, it's not as good as Paradise. It's not as good as Burnout Paradise, or Burnout Paradise did that better, or it's not a sim racer. It's the dynamics are not terribly accurate, but that's not what it's about. It's not about reproducing the look, feel, and dynamics of racing a car. It's about thrashing around and smashing things up, and it does that incredibly well.
It's funny actually because I think a lot of people sort of said like, why are they remastering it? Why are they not just making another one? Because it's 10 years since that come out. I mean that's a hell of a long time. And I thought to myself, so I played Burnout 1, 2, Takedown, and then Paradise, and I thought, but at the time, that is the definitive evolution of what Burnout would be, wouldn't it? It would go to an open world, an open world like race circuit, effectively, with a couple of extra gimmicks thrown in. And I don't know what the evolution from that would be.
No,
so
it is what it is.
I'm guessing that it hit its ceiling 10 years ago, and it's really good to go back to it 10 years later.
Can I sort of raise a counterpoint to that? And I should say this is someone who loved Burnout Paradise at the time, and I played it absolutely loads, and we played it multiplayer endlessly, hundreds of hours on it, right? And I'm not going back to it this time around because I've sort of decided I was pretty much done with it because I played it so much. But my problem with Burnout Paradise, and even then I had this problem with it, was that you calling it a racer, I don't really even consider it to be a racer. It was a great social game where you sort of tour about the city, doing the challenges and stuff, and I really enjoyed that. Great fun. But as a racer, it was rubbish because the previous Burnout games had like fixed tracks. You went from A to B, and you were nearly always wheel-to-wheel racing, taking people out, battering them into posts and stuff. In Burnout, you played a multiplayer race from A to B. You go to the first corner, somebody goes that way, somebody doesn't. And by the end of the race, you don't see anyone because everyone's choosing a different route because you've got to route find your way. And I hated that.
The thing is, I
hated
loved that.
Like, it lost the thing about Burnout that made it Burnout, which was that wheel-to-wheel constant racing. You're literally always batting. I used to love Burnout Revenge and playing that and Takedown and all the others. But playing those, you're always in the thick of the action. In Paradise, you're on your own. It was fun to rage across the city, but on your own. You were on your own. You weren't battling with other racers. It just never happened. And that was such a shame.
See, I always thought that Takedown was the better game. I preferred Takedown. I thought that was the best one.
I'm hearing that a lot, actually. Yeah.
I got all the achievements on Burnout Paradise because I remember that I remember that was around the start of getting sort of making friends with a lot of you fellas, and I still remember playing with the Rook, who's been on the podcast before. We used to like sort of grind out the achievements on that. But yeah, absolutely. I remember it was all about dicking around and trying to do jumps and barrel rolls and stuff, which I found fun at times. But sometimes I just wanted to go and do the races, and nobody else ever wanted to. I think because it's probably not to most people's taste, as Tony's just said. But what I really liked about it was it just gave you a finish point and said, go drive there as quick as you can. So you kind of there was almost like a risk reward where it was like, well, I'll take a slightly longer route because I know the area really well, and I'll avoid other people around, and I'll loop around the side. And you'd end up with these situations where you're both driving. It wasn't neck and neck, and I understand that that's probably frustrating for a lot of people, but I quite like the way it was different in that you'd be driving towards each other along the same road towards the finish point. It was a kind of, I feel like we probably crashed into, I must have had head-ons at the finish line. I thought that was kind of cool. I've never seen that in another game since.
I have to say, I mean, the idea I thought was pretty sound, and I liked the idea of that. But the trouble with Burnout is because it is like literally ludicrously blistering fast, and that's its whole thing, right? That's Burnout's unique selling point. It is so fast, and I just felt that I couldn't navigate at those speeds, right? Whereas like GTA, you could do a point-to-point race, and your cars are a lot slower. You have more time to react and plot out your route. Whilst you're driving with Burnout, it was so fast. I didn't like the fact I had to plan out a route. It was just too hard to do. And I've been playing GTA for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. If you say to me, go to the airport, I can find a way there now without doing it. But Burnout, even after a really long time, I couldn't plot out a route in my head quickly between 2 points. I was like, I wouldn't know which way to go. It was a big city, but I just couldn't do it because it was too fast. You couldn't see like key points. You go down the road, there'd be like 4 turns, and you have to choose like the third one. And I just didn't know which one I wanted. It was just too fast. You couldn't do both at once. I couldn't race and navigate, and that just spoiled it for me, personally. I mean, I loved it. Like I say, I played it loads, but the races, barely touched them. It was all about
most people didn't
the challenges.
Like nobody ever wanted to do the races, to be honest. I was so happy when we did one. We'd do one, and people would be like, well, that was shit. Let's go back to trying to, like, get an ice cream truck to balance on top of this killer whale or whatever the fuck you do in Burnout. I can't remember.
That was the kind of thing, yeah. Do a barrel roll through the aircraft fuselage and all that kind of stuff.
I think I can see it from both points, because I was a big fan of the stuff that you're talking about, Tony. But also, I think the freedom of what you're saying, Simon, is something that I think sets it apart from other races. Yeah, I think if you look at like Call of Duty, you play the single player, don't you? And you get balls to the wall action, and then you move into multiplayer, which is an evolution of that, but to a different standard, to a higher standard, I guess. I suppose what Burnout did is that if you want that pedal to the metal, balls to the wall kind of racing experience, you would be in a lobby with 8 other people doing that race, maybe, and you'd get that experience, but it would just be on a different level to what Burnout 2 and Burnout 1.
The thing is, though, there was nothing to have stopped them kind of like, you know, putting invisible barricades across, like in the earlier Burnout games. You would go through a town, and there would be turns that you couldn't take because they'd have like, you know, like kind of invisible barriers across
you
them.
go, oh no, I would normally take right on this race, but now we're going left. And
so there's no reason they couldn't have taken Paradise's map and made some really well crafted maps in the style of Burnout Revenge, Burnout Takedown, all that. So they could have done both. They could have had Paradise with a mode which was proper fixed circuits, which I would have loved. I would have played Revenge. I played that for hours and hours into the night just doing it.
Because they didn't have a race editor or anything like that. Because I think that's a couple of things that they could have done with the remaster, which I feel like they just kept the game as it is. They haven't made any improvements. They've just made it look better. It plays exactly the same, but they could have done like fast travel points would have been good. Quick swapping of cars would have been good, but they've missed that. And actually, a race editor would have been very good, I think.
But let's say just an option, so you could have, like Simon likes, a point-to-point race, go from A to B, however you want, or go from A to B via this route.
Yeah, because the infrastructure's there, because it's a 10-year-old game. You know, everything else, all they've got to do is add these stuff in. But
it's a shame. But even when it came out then, I would have preferred it if they'd have had at least that option.
Yeah. But yeah,
like the fixed race.
I think overall though, it stands up incredibly well, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's taken about 14, 15 hours. I've been off work, so I've been playing it, and it's been quite fun on my own, and I'm looking forward to playing some more online, I think. Really good, really good.
It's a fantastic game. I spent a lot of time with it. I did have a really good time with it. But I think that it's a sort of classic as well. Like it's a modern classic, even though it's 10 years?
There isn't. I can't think of a game that comes close to what it was trying to achieve. I know that things have moved, so they've moved. Criterion have moved on to Need for Speed and tried to do something different with that. And again, I'm not a massive fan. Failed. Did you say, John?
Yeah. Basically,
all
moved
the
on
Need for Speed
moved
games
on
are basically
to Need
Burnout
for
Paradise
Speed
just started up
trying
now.
to do something different. And the problem the problem with
what's
everything
Forza
from
Horizon
Need for Speed for the last half a dozen titles is they've basically just got it wrong.
Yeah, they've all been fairly forgettable as far as from the reviews that I've been reading. But then, like Forza Horizon 3, I mean, does that play fairly similar, where you go to certain points in the map and pick up races and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, that's basically the thing about Horizon is it pretty much does exactly what Tony has said, which is you've got an open world that you race through, but when you're racing, it's track. You go from point A to point B,
good,
and you have to follow the tracks. And even when you're racing through, on a street circuit that there are other vehicles on, there's kind of one way you can go, and there's some open areas, like you go through a park and you can, it's a big open green space. You can choose your own path, or across the countryside, it's a big open space and you can choose your path. But where you need to get to after that little bit of open bit is a gate, or there's a fence, or there's a road that you've got to drive down. So where you have the feel of openness, it's actually not. It's just the barriers are much wider, and if you went much wider, then you wouldn't win. So you've got a pretty much straight line, or choose a path from point A to point B. And when it's in the city, it's there is one route to go. That's pretty much what you do.
The crew did that kind of thing quite well as well. Like, say you play a race where you come out of the city and then burst out into an open field. You could dodge either side of a tree or whatever around a huge wide area, but then you had to get funneled back in. And I really enjoyed that, again, because it kept you sort of tight, close together. I mean, the crew wasn't anywhere near as good looking as something like Forza or even the Need for Speed games, but it was really, ambitious, and I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I think it may have been Revenge or perhaps Takedown, but there was one of them that did have, I can't remember which title it was. It did have the yellow sort of shimmering barriers down the side streets, so you couldn't.
I think they all had that.
Yeah, you couldn't go down them. But I just remember other cars. So obviously the other cars in the town, they would just carry on going straight through. So you'd be, just skimming a corner, and then a fucking truck would come through, and you'd plow into it.
Yes.
So those challenges, I think you're right. That adds to it, because you know where you have to go, but you also have to be aware of other traffic as well. So it merges the best of both. But having said that, I also like the additional challenge of taking a turn and going, fuck. Immediately as I've taken that turn, I know that it was the wrong one. And bollocks. So,
and then you commit, don't you? Like some of those mountain roads, it's like, I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah, so I'm going to do it now. Maybe there's a shortcut. There's not ever, but so I like both sides. I both aspects, and I mean I'm a fan of driving games, everybody knows, and on the whole, driving games I enjoy. There are lots of bits of lots of games which I think are crap, and Need for Speed just continually disappoints me. But I can, for the most part, take the rough with the smooth, and given its age, and again, I think we have to put it into context, Burnout Paradise Remastered is a pretty version of a 10-year-old game, and it's still really, really playable. And for that alone, you've got to think, well,
it's good enough.
It's good enough, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can't knock it. I'm just disappointed, because if I could only choose one Burnout game to remaster, it probably would have been
Revenge
or Revenge, probably, because I love both of those. And to be honest, if it was up to me, I'd ask for like a kind of a Wipeout Omega collection style deal. So I'd want like all the best tracks from Takedown, Burnout 1, 2, Takedown, and Revenge all rolled into one game.
Do you know what, if I was
that
to
would just be amazing.
Choose one series to do that on, it would be SSX. I'd love to have an SSX collection.
I loved SSX.
What kind of SSX best of? Yeah, I never really got into that one.
Because I remember when they done the HD Tony Hawks on the Last Generation, they done an amalgamation of a couple of tracks from each game, and that was brilliant from 1 to 3. But SSX, they done a brand new SSX, didn't they? They redone it. It was brilliant, but I loved SSX 1, Tricky, and 3. I thought they were all brilliant, and I'm surprised.
That new one, Steep.
No, I played the. Do you know what? I played the demo, and
was it no good? I
clattered into a tree and I was like, this is like me snowboarding in real life. Yeah, there's a picture actually. You know, Tony, there's a snow dome near us.
Yeah.
A friend of mine said, "Oh, come on, I'm coming down for the day. Do you fancy going to the snow dome?" I was like, "Yeah, okay, then that's fine." Right, thinking that they'd put training wheels on me or something like that. I fell off putting on the skis. I fell off trying to get onto the little seat. I fell off halfway up, then managed to pick myself up, and then missed the first baby height one. So I had to go to the second one. And there's a picture of me in some orange corrugated inching, where I just fell continuously down the mountain. I paid 40 quid, went down once, and just sat at the bottom of like a cup of hot chocolate because I was bruised. So yeah, so
Did you not
good.
borrow a sledge or something? That would have been a bit of a laugh, surely.
No, but there's all these posh twats sort of swerving down left to right, like swivel hips.
God.
I was trying to beat my best time. My best.
Simon, no one's ever called you a posh twat.
Yeah.
Well, not 100% of that expression.
I don't think they have. Actually.
So are you a skiist or a snowboarder then?
I'm a faller.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
A lemming. Hey, did you guys see that awful video of that ski lift that malfunctioned in?
Yes.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it was.
Going backwards at high speed.
Have you seen that, Simon? I can see Simon doesn't look like he'd seen it.
No, but you just reminded me of the self-driving car video.
Oh man! I was just watching that ski lift video, and there's people come down, and the ski lift basically goes really, really fast. So when they come to the bottom and it goes around the corner, it's like flinging people off like a fucking trebuchet. People are going pinging off, and people are shouting, "Jump off!" And people soon get the idea and start jumping off. But then all the sort of cars get like smashed together, and there's a big pile of cars, and it's all like smoke's coming out. It's fucking hell. I was watching it thinking, that's the most insane thing I've ever seen. I saw the video kind of out of context. I thought, fuck, when did that happen? I looked up, it was like that day. So it was only a couple of weeks ago. But it was horrific. And I just thought, man, that was horrible. I sent it to my brother and my sister. You seen this video? Fucking hell, it's terrible. My brother goes, fuck them. They're all rich skiing cunts. He's all heart, my brother. Do you know what? If you think I'm an arsehole, you should meet my brother. He's next level. He's younger, but he's somehow managed to surpass me in arsehole-ish.
You mentioned sledding. I did actually, because I live in a mountain retreat basically here in Berkshire, and it snowed here, and it snowed a couple of times in the last month, and we did a podcast around the time, actually, the first time, and it just snowed in, but there's this long 70-odd metre driveway, and we did some sledging, and it was so much fun. I hadn't done that for so long. Like, I don't think I have adult memories of sledding. And it's underrated. So I think if I ever do go skiing, and skiing's a bit like horse riding now for me, in that I don't think I could learn it. I think I'd definitely be killed. But I wonder if I did go skiing, maybe I started going out with someone from Made in Chelsea.
I can imagine you in a wingsuit, Simon.
Yeah, either wingsuit or just a sled, or a wingsuit onto a sled with a Union Jack parachute.
Your spirit.
A Union Jack flag draped over my coffin. So they had to repatriate my body.
I was going to say, yeah, it's because your spirit animal is a flying squirrel. That's how I can imagine you.
Just because that's what he looks like.
How do you know about Clemens the squirrel?
Do you know what I was going to say, Simon? You know what, your mountaintop retreat. I just realised you're the wise guru that pilgrims come to seek wisdom from, aren't you? You were talking before about people coming round to your house and you offering them a Coke or a Pepsi. You mean pilgrims, people that have made the 500-mile trek to the top of your mountain to seek the wisdom of Mr. Simon Allen.
Yeah.
And you go, I'll tell you what's good. Walker's Max, mate.
Yeah, it's not a bad life. I don't know. Sledding and skiing. It's all sort of sliding down slopes.
I fancied going to the ski centre to do sledding. I did look, and you can do it there.
Yeah.
But
You can do it.
On certain days though. I don't think they do it that often.
You go on a massive trunky or something like that, don't you, and just slide down. I think
that sounds incredibly dangerous.
A massive trunky.
I'd want to go on one of those big bananas they have on like 1830 holidays.
That's also
I wouldn't be able to go on an 1830.
We're not allowed to go on them now.
We're all banned.
Yeah, I could just go to the...
John, if John paid for 2 tickets, maybe he could go. 36 to 60.
Just rude. I mean, accurate, giving you, but just rude.
I actually don't know how old John is, but I know it's older than 28.
He's on to
itself.
cruises now. That's
Oh
what it
no,
is.
I would never do a cruise. No.
You don't like boats?
Socks and
I'd
sandals.
do a cruise. It's incredibly luxurious. I'd want to be in the Caribbean though.
Motion sickness. Well,
Oh, motion sickness. But
Oh
it's like
yeah, yeah.
first-person
Most,
shooters.
that must be brilliant. Imagine John playing a first-person shooter
on a
in VR
on a boat.
on a cruise
Yeah,
ship.
but maybe it would cancel it out. Maybe that's the only way.
Maybe that is the only
maybe
way.
John will actually be able to catch up on Call of Duty by going on
That's
a
it.
6-week cruise.
VR on a cruise. That's the only way I can play COD.
I like what you say, right? The whole QE2 has been closed down this evening after a man has vomited so profusely.
Then it's actually filled the entire lower levels. But luckily, that's only where the scum live. So
What do they call it in? What do they call it in Titanic? The lower
Steerage.
levels. It's got steerage. Yeah. Sadly, steerage have all drowned in
lumps of
solid
carrot.
holes. vomit.
Producer John. Oh, yeah.
That's a delightful thought, isn't it?
It would have been a different movie, wouldn't it?
So now you brought it up, you have to guess.
Puke on me like one of your French girls.
Oh.
I made myself feel sick.
So you all have to guess numbers now.
We're guessing John's age. This will be really fun.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You got to go high, haven't you? I mean, you got to go high, otherwise it just sounds like you're being insulting.
Yeah.
Right.
44.
Plus.
I think John is about 49. I'm guessing.
I'm sure John's told us this before.
I'm sure he has. I can't remember.
I'm going to go with 52.
You're
Well, that's face. I think you may have gone high.
No, I'm 48. 49.
48? Oh, yeah.
48. Oh, I wasn't
49,
far out
49.
then.
Sorry about that, John.
So nice square number this year then.
Yes, indeed.
And then you haven't got another one till you're
I'm
what, 64?
7
Have I
this
done the maths
year.
wrong?
7 squared.
Are you going to be like these sad fuckers at my work who, like, because we're all like very technical people that do like hexadecimal and binary and shit?
Yeah.
People who come in and go, I'm 30 this year in hex.
In hex.
You're 48, you miserable old cunt.
Yeah.
Right, I can just imagine you all snorting and go,
That's kind of what it's like, actually. Yeah.
There are 10 people in this world who understand binary, those that do and those that don't.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the kind of joke that goes down a fucking storm at my work. Actually, it wouldn't, because they're all a bunch of miserable arseholes, to be perfectly fair.
I bet they're all walking around with limps from all that knee slapping
Oh,
that
yeah.
they keep doing all day. Yeah.
Anyway.
Most people in my company wouldn't do knee slapping because it's too energetic. You know, they don't want to move that vigorously. They're not getting paid for that.
Mouse tapping, mostly, isn't it?
Just face down on a keyboard, sleeping half of them. Oh, yeah, we were talking about video games at some point.
We were.
About 20 minutes ago.
What the fuck's a video game?
Yeah, it's a thing that the people make podcasts about. I'm not sure if they have any other purpose. I was going to talk a little bit about, I haven't finished it, but on Johnny's recommendation, I got Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. And I've been playing that. And I have to say, when I started out, it's an incredible looking game. And this kind of, as Johnny said, you kind of got this character who's got like psychosis. So she has all these like voices constantly talking all around her. And I'm playing it with my surround sound system, and it's really incredible, this kind of effect of all these voices talking over you, and it's really clever the way that they'll say, like, she's not going to make it, she's not going to make it, she's going to die, she's injured, she's going to die, and then sort of say she can make it, and all these voices like conflicting while you're having a fight in the combat or whatever, and it's really cool, and they've used it to great effect as a kind of you know how a lot of games have like an icon that flashes up on the screen when someone's about to hit you. In Hellblade, it kind of goes behind you, like a voice will come up from behind you. One of the many sort of weird voices that you hear will say behind you, and then you'll quickly spin around, hit a button, and block an enemy attacking you from behind that you can't see, which I think is a fantastic way of using there's no real HUD on the game, so it uses this interface of like the audio to tell you to look out when someone's about to hit you in the back. And it is absolutely beautiful game. Looks really, really good. And some incredible, clever, as Johnny said, there's some very clever effects, like kind of almost like optical illusion tricks and all kinds of stuff in it. The only thing is, I did think at first the game feels fairly thin underneath this kind of really incredible presentation of this really gorgeous graphics and this incredible audio effect. But I have to say, the more I'm playing it, the more I feel like it's coming into its own. Like the combat, because the game doesn't it literally drops you in and says, off you go. It doesn't tell you how to do anything. So I found a couple of things a bit frustrating, like the combat. It was ages before I just happened to pause the game to get a drink or something. And I realized on the pause screen, is the controls and there's a button to block. So for ages, I was just trying to dodge every single shot. And there's a really good kind of, you can time a parry to sort of block someone and put them off their guard and then like attack them. And there's all these mechanisms that are not clear. It's kind of cool to discover it, but at the same time, it's not really clear that that's what's supposed to be happening. So yeah, and like, I don't know, I just really got into it. But at first I was like, wow, this is really, I didn't know what was going on. The combat was way too difficult. But then like, once you get it, it's okay.
How unsettling is it? Like hearing, if you've got surround sound or whatever, if you hear like behind you, you play with the lights off, like that would mess me up a little bit.
It's quite unsettling. I have to say, when I first played it, I can't remember what day I played it, but I played it like one morning or something, and I played it for like an hour, and at the end of it, I thought, God, do you know what? I like need a break, because it was kind of like.
To be fair, I thought it was a bit unsettling actually, because I played with headphones. Yeah, and I thought because it's so well acted that it took me off my guard.
Yeah, I think it says when you start the game, it recommends that you actually play it with headphones, doesn't it, rather than
it does.
Speakers. And that really does put the voices in your head, and
yes,
from different spaces in your head. And as Tony said, it's incredibly well done. As at the time, it really, I feel, quite accurately reflects those voices that can appear and nag you, and you know, the questioning. You know, is that really going to work? What if you do that? What if it doesn't work? You know, what if they don't like me? All those things. But really,
are you just talking about having a wife?
Not anymore.
It's much like that.
Yeah, but
it's like,
but it brings it all to the fore. And the fact that those voices, even though they're just, you know, whispering voices or just the little words every now and again, they are all really well acted. Each one of those voices has a character, and you start recognizing them. And there's one that's always very positive and get up, Sanio, get up. And there's one which is, no, she's going to die, she's injured, she's going to die. And those two characters seem to be at the extremes, with the others moving between the two. And it's really, really well done.
Yeah, it's cleverly done because they use the voices very well to integrate with the gameplay. For example, I was struggling with the combat, as I said, and I kept getting knocked down, and I'm on the floor, and she's lying there, and you're like really close-up view of your character, and I thought, fuck, I'm dead. So I died, and then I restarted, and then that happened a few times. And then the voices are going, get up, get up, get up. And one of them's going, oh, you know, she's dead, get up, you know, or she's not going to make it. And then it's only then I realised that if you press the dodge or the get up, and you can actually get up, you've got a chance. If they don't hit you again, you can get back up and get back into the fight. So that voice not only just makes a really interesting part of the game, but it's actually useful. In the same way, I think if you're going the wrong way, sometimes the voices say, she's lost, she doesn't know where she's going, she doesn't know where she's going, stuff like that. And you're like, oh, hang on, maybe I'm not going the right way here. But sometimes they do seem to say that even if you are going the right way. So it's all, but it's very clever, very sort of disturbing and contradictory. I mean, I really actually now, having got into it, I really enjoy the combat. It's quite hard, but I'm sort of starting to get my eye in on that. And there's some really clever sort of challenges in it. There's one where you're kind of going through an almost entirely dark room, and you're just listening to sounds and the way your controller vibrates and all that stuff. And there's another one where you're sort of being chased around this maze by this kind of fire, and it's a really intense, and it's really good, actually. I mean, at first I just thought it's a lot of, first, they do this thing where you have to find these runes to open a door. So you go to a place and there's 3 runes on a door, and then you have to go and kind of line up something to create that rune in the environment, which is quite clever because sometimes you'll find, say, a light, like a hole in a wall that's the shape of the room, but it's the wrong way around. And then, of course, you turn around and the light's shining onto the ground, and now it's the right way around, and all that stuff, like clever stuff. But at first, it's just a lot of that. And I was getting a bit bored, thinking, if this is just a whole game, I'm going to be a bit bored of this. And there was a lot of that, and I liked it, and it's, you know, in interesting point, but it was just going on a bit. But then it started to expand, and they've put in this other stuff, and it seems to be getting quite interesting. I don't know how long the game is, so I assume I've probably got that much more to play. But it's a really, really interesting experience. It's kind of like, I guess, like a lot of those games, you know, like it's a relatively thin gaming experience, but it's the experience more than the gaming almost. I mean, actually, the combat I find is pretty cool, but the rest of the game is fairly slow paced. But it's all about that experience.
Yeah, I think that's probably why they released it at a slightly lower price, because they realised that, you know, you can get a AAA experience for 40 quid that delivers more content. But yeah, it's kind of experience along the way.
Yeah. I mean, it's. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the end of it. But I say it's hard work to play. You know, I just sometimes just come out, a bit tired. And recently I've been doing a whole boatload of hours. I've been working so many hours. I was supposed to be off today, and I'd arranged with Jonny here to play a bit more of a Way Out, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute. And we were going to sit and play that. And then today, and I had to go to work. So I was at work, and then I had to go off and have a baby scan with the wife, and then go back to work, and then come home and then get onto the podcast. I've just been like that non-stop. So when I do get a bit of time to play a game, I'm like, can I play this really kind of dark and slow-moving and really kind of intense experience, or do I just get on GTA and blow up a few dickheads for 10 minutes? You know what I mean? It's like, it is a game that you're going to want to be in the mood for, but I do recommend it. And I think Jonny was right to recommend it to me, because it's very much my kind of thing, but it is kind of hard work at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's got to be one of those that you have to approach knowing what you're going in for and be in the right frame of mind for it. Like you say, if you got, you know, 15, 20 minutes that you just want to go in and have a bit of mental fluff, that's not the game for you. It's something. It's a game that you've got to be really ready to go and approach and experience.
It kind of works a bit like a horror movie, don't you? You need to psych yourself up.
You've got to be in the right mode.
But the reward,
that's good.
The reward's worth it, I feel. And plus, it's smashing the old Game of the Year awards as well.
I'm not surprised.
It's a bit different.
That's what you said. Underlying, there's not a lot of depth. There's not a lot of narrative. There's very little exposition. There's not a lot of everything out there. It's quite narrow. It's quite thin. But what has been done extraordinarily well. And maybe that's the thing. You know, everybody is banging on about open worlds and, you know, unlimited choice and all that kind of thing. But sometimes a corridor shooter, which is effectively what it is, a corridor fighter, if you do it well enough, can be just as good. And I think that is done well enough to be just as good.
But, I do agree with that. I think games are broad enough now that it's got such a broad audience that it can satisfy so many different mediums by using not a lot of money. So when you look at like the Xbox indies, for example, you look at like Limbo or Braid or The Witness or whatever. These games are created by like less than 5 or 6 people, and they can deliver a really deep experience within 4 or 5 hours. And there's room for that. And then also you've got the Call of Duties that are still smashing billions of pounds, but there's room for both of them, and they both tell a completely different story.
I think I said this last time, or maybe the time before, but as I see it, games are splitting more and more into 6-hour finely crafted masterpieces and 3-year game experiences like Battlefield, Rainbow Six, all that. You know what I mean? There seems to be more and more that there's less. Nobody wants to buy 15, 20-hour game. You either want a game you're going to be playing for years, or a game that you'll complete in 8 to 10 hours. There seems to be a big divide like that now. I think it's because games are either made by massive teams, massive companies, and they cost millions to make and take years. Those are the enormous epic ones that last for years. And then you've got games that are made by relatively small teams, and they can only be a few hours long because they haven't really got the money to put into that, because they can't guarantee it's going to be successful. So I feel like that's what's happening there with that split. But I like it. I love the fact that I'm still playing your GTAs, your Rainbow Six Sieges, all those games that are just going on for years and years and years. But at the same time, I'm quite happy to spend 8-10 hours in a game like Hellblade. And I just think that's really nice. Like those short experiences interspersed with your literally bread and butter, day-to-day, you know, meat and potatoes gaming, which is like, there's so many games now that I just like can't imagine having a console without. Like GTA, it's something that's just always in the background. I don't think there's ever been 2 podcasts since we started doing this where I haven't played GTA at least once in between those 2 podcasts. But I don't usually mention it because it's part of the background of my gaming life. It's not something that it's rare that something interesting happens that I think is worth mentioning on the podcast. It's great fun, but it's the background. It's like the wallpaper in your house. You don't notice it after a while. It's always there. And I think that's a lot of games like that now. Yeah. I mean, Simon's been on Rainbow Six Siege. That game's been on for years, and there's still people getting involved in that. And I'm happy to dip into that all the time. And it's just, again, it's something that almost feels like it's pre-installed on your console. It's just there. It's something that,
it's something.
It's games as a service, isn't it? Is the idea. Like Destiny's another one that tries to do that.
Yeah, I think you're dead right. I think that's only really come into our gaming lives over the last 10 years. Before that, it was literally you played the game, you traded it in, you got another game, or you passed it on to your mate, or you're done and dusted.
Yeah, even the multiplayer ones would only be a few months.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it several times before. I just feel incredibly fortunate that my principal hobby is so vast and so wide in terms of the depth of choice that we now have.
Do you mean masturbating?
Yeah.
What about your secondary hobby, gaming?
But yeah, like I've finished one game. I've made a list this year of games that I'm going to buy and which ones I'm going to catch up on. And literally, I ain't got a chance to stop. So fortunate at the moment. And although I've got 2 consoles in the Switch as well as the PS4, I think even just with the PS4 alone, I'm set for the entire year now. With everything that's coming out, we're very lucky with the amount that's coming out.
Yeah, do you know what? Far Cry 5 just came out, and I can't wait to play that. But I'm in the middle of Hellblade, and I'm busy at work, and got a baby on the way in a few weeks, so I don't know if I'll get around to that before the baby comes. But I'm like, I can't wait. There's just so much good stuff I just really want to play, and
it's interesting, isn't it? The games. I think it stems from a lack of avoiding risk, which is totally fine. For, working in software as I do, the idea of working on something for 3 or 4 years and not releasing it until the end of that cycle, and thus you have basically a 6-month crunch at the end, it's so risky. If you look at something like Mass Effect Andromeda as a case in point, they must have spent, I guess, 3 or 4 years working on that, and it didn't work out very well, and they effectively dissolved that team, and they're working on different things. And EA, I think a lot of those developers, I think, were repurposed for Anthem. I actually don't know, but Anthem is their shot, EA's shot at the Activision Destiny and the Epic Fortnite. That idea of like you pay. Well, Fortnite Streets is actually a bit different, but you pay up front for a game, and then you keep playing it for 2 years, and they keep releasing DLC and content, and they keep you on the hook. And that it blurs the lines with early access. Those sorts of games, you've got a lot more scope to release the game in a state that's not perfect or far from perfect, and then you gradually add more and more content. I suppose it is largely about mitigating risk, which is to say is totally fine.
I think you're dead right about that, because you can see that in the AAA titles, that most of the AAA titles that come out normally seem to deliver, don't they? And it's the medium titles that are a hit or miss. And I do what, a couple of years ago, I think I would have been worried that the industry was going that way. But seeing how the indie scene's going and early access, like you say, it literally seems to be such a positive that people are taking less risk by doing these smaller projects, because most of them seem to be paying off.
Maybe you only hear about the smaller projects that are successful, though,
Well, I don't know. It's funny. So I was looking through the PlayStation store. So, like they have the sale on and stuff like that. The amount of games that go on sale are like hundreds, aren't they? So needs to sell at the moment, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And the only ones that have really towards the bottom of the list are just these little shitty projects that, again, when you look at what Simon was saying about risk, I mean, they would have cost 6 months to 12 months to make and then put out. And if they're successful, brilliant. But if they're not, it's no biggie. They move on to the next one. And I'm looking at them, they're being like £2, £3, £4, £5 a time, and they're just nothing titles. They're not risky. You're not seeing. The only example I can tell you of a big game franchise, or a potential game franchise that's failed in recent years, is Evolve. Evolve sort of come out with loads of fanfare, and it just sunk. without a trace.
Battleborn.
Well, it's funny, right? I'm glad you said Battleborn because I was reading. I was listening to a podcast about Battleborn. So
hang on a second. Are you cheating on us?
yeah, I am. Yeah, funny enough.
I thought you were
listening to
one
a
podcast man.
Podcast about Battleborn. Are they still running the official Battleborn podcast?
A podcast about video games. How you really are cheating on us. It's not even like you're cheating on us with our own sister. It's someone completely different.
Yeah, because Battleborn was made by the guys that done Borderlands, right? Gearbox, right? So they obviously had high projections of what they expected for that to deliver.
More than 10 copies.
More than 10 copies, right? So, and then Overwatch come out and obviously trumped it and just smashed it out of the park. But actually, Battleborn sold like 3 million copies. Now,
really?
So you've got two ways of looking at it. So one for Gearbox, that probably is a failure because they've sold 25 million copies of the Borderlands series, and also they've got their production costs and or whatever else and their overheads pay off. Now, 3 million copies might have just made them break even, but 3 million copies for a game, that's not bad going. But it's not classed as a success because stood up next to Overwatch, which effectively is exactly the same thing, it's a failure, isn't it?
It didn't go free to play, Battleborn.
Didn't go free to play.
It didn't. Oh wow. Okay.
But
3 million, surprising. Yeah.
Yeah, if we're talking about Paladins, that's a problem because that did tank, didn't it?
Paladins, I didn't hear about that one.
Paladins like an Overwatch clone, but I thought Paladins was still going. It's like a free to play Overwatch. It's on
Paladins
PS4.
is free to go. Yeah, they're free to play now. Yeah,
I think it's still knocking about Paladins. I imagine they're turning a profit, but it hasn't exactly taken the world by storm. I hope Overwatch goes free to play. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't.
I bought Overwatch and barely played it. I just never quite clicked with me, Overwatch.
I liked it. It's a fantastic game, yeah.
You know, I think I bought it at exactly the wrong moment. Basically, Overwatch, everybody was on it. Every time I looked, everyone was on it. Everyone was on it. I bought it, and then nobody was on it. Hang on. Yeah. I just realised that maybe it wasn't the game, but perhaps some other thing.
Yeah, they were scratching their heads in the boardroom about that. They were like, "Oh, this is going great."
Suddenly, I had a lot of friends who were offline all the time as well.
Patient zero.
Yeah.
I burnt out on Overwatch for two reasons. I think that the one reason is that the depth of the gameplay is so deep that it can swallow you up. And on the second, the skill ceiling moved on quicker than I moved with the game. And so it frustrated me massively.
I think that can be a problem. I mean, I would find it. I imagine if you started to play Rocket League today, for example, you would struggle. But however, Rocket League has a really good ranking system. Like, it matches me and Rook. We play it a lot. It matches us up with other people, and it's rare to get tonked. And when we do get tonked, it'll be like we're now both made it to 2 gold, which is the highest we've ever been. And we are very gradually working our way up over the years, slowly, maybe on average 1 rank each time. So like 1 gold, 2 gold, 3 silver, all that. So we sort of creep up maybe 1 per year. So we're sort of gradually going up. So we are getting better, but I think we're quite slow because other people have seemingly got massively better. But the only time we get tonked is when the game matches us up with like a 3 gold and a 3 bronze. Then we get stopped because one person 1 level above us in a 2v2 game can destroy us.
Yeah, you find
so I don't know if Overwatch is like that. Are there like newbie games? Does it match up well?
When you think about like Rainbow Six, and maybe it's not a great example, but I'm going to use it all the same. But the same with Overwatch. When everyone piles into it, everyone's brand new. So everyone kind of moves along slowly, and then the wheat from the chaff slowly gets moved out. What you'll find is that it gets wider and wider and wider, the gap between the new players and the casual players and the people that are really, really good. And the medium players, there's such a wide spectrum of those medium players that it's so hard to find that fair game 2 or 3 years into its life. So I find that that's why I tend not to go into big multiplayer games 4 or 5 months after their release, because I find that like some players have really kicked on, and it gets harder to get into it again. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yeah. A nice thing about Siege, though, is that once you hit a certain rank, you can go into the ranked mode, which me and Simon actually tried the other day. And how would you describe it, Simon?
I would describe it as I would most charitably describe it as a chastening opposite of life affirming experience.
I'd say we got bummed, but that's. It wasn't good, basically. But the good thing of that is it's there. The ranked is there. So if you're a kind of hardcore player, you go into ranked. You want to win the ranked games. You want to increase your rank. If you're a casual player, you play the casual matches. And I think that's important because in Siege, you go in there, they're very well organised teams on the ranked games. You will get stomped. You've got to go in as a team. And in fact, Johnny, I'm hoping that, I don't know if you're working, but over the bank holiday weekend, for some reason, bank holidays seem to bring out the Rainbow Six Siege.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Everybody seems to fire it on with the bank holiday.
Yeah, can we do it on Friday? Yeah, I love a Friday.
So we might get a bit of that going and get Steve.
I'll
some
probably
of the other boys
play
on.
it pretty much the entire weekend. So.
Get Simon on, and
that's a really good point. I forgot about that.
5-man team. Yeah.
I will note that I am spectacularly inept. But I do enjoy it. I'm enthusiastic.
He'll do better than me though. So as long as we've got Johnny and Steve to carry us, we'll be fine.
Yeah, one of my fondest gaming memories actually of this console generation is a bank holiday session where we must have sat on there for about 4 or 5 hours, just people coming in, dropping out, coming in, dropping out. I loved it. But it's a great game, Siege. I really enjoyed Siege. But I suppose the analogy that I wanted to use, which has now come to me, is imagine a sieve full of flour, right? The first couple of weeks is you emptying the whole packet of flour onto this sieve, and then over the course of the month, you slowly sieve out the people who are falling out of the game, and then the larger chunks are the really good people, and then slowly that sieve goes down to next to nothing, and then you get a small trickle of players or a small trickle of flour going into that sieve. That's what I wanted to say, and I think that's a really good analogy, actually.
Does that make you Mary Berry?
Yeah, I tell you what, my kitchen is covered in flour.
Just checking that analogy.
Yeah, flour. Yeah, it wasn't really your 30th birthday party with the old Bolivian marching powder.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say that your metaphor is slightly fucked because if you keep sieving flour, eventually it all gets to small pieces and falls out. I suppose it's long enough timeline.
Yeah, and that's when the game dies.
Yeah, I suppose so. But it also implies that the larger pieces, which are the better players, actually get worse as time goes on.
You're overworking.
They eventually fall out.
Well,
you're overworking your dough there, Tony.
You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, you also don't rush the players through with the backs of a spoon either. There's no gaming analogy for that. Yeah.
Okay. No.
You could say that was
DLC.
DLC. Spoon of DLC.
DLC comes out and all the hardcore players go, fuck this, I'm out of here.
Well, no, it does push players away, doesn't it, DLC? Yeah. I mean, it brings some in, but it also pushes some people away that I can't be asked now. Yeah. But actually, that's one thing I think Siege does very well, and it just keeps doing that thing where it puts in new maps. And you have to unlock the characters. So I think that's brilliant because the game keeps expanding.
That new mode's really good as well that they've brought out.
Yeah, I wasn't so keen. on the Outbreak mode. I found it was a bit like a poor man's Left 4 Dead, and it's a bit too hectic and unplanned, which is not really playing to Siege's strengths.
You're right in the fact that it is a Left 4 Dead, isn't it? Yeah, it's very close to Left 4 Dead, actually. Yeah,
but I mean, it's fun, but it doesn't play to Siege's strengths, which are tactical, strategic game. It's like I said before, it's like the difference between a game of chess and a game of fucking crazy golf. You know,
the way I saw it. So I went in with quite low expectation. Basically, I saw it as they've gone right. Okay, this is 2 years. We've got 15, 20 million users. Let's break away 10 people, go and make something for the next couple of months, see what you come up with, and if it works, happy days. And I saw it as that, and I thought, yeah, it's nothing. It's not going to enhance. Is it not going to enhance? It's going to enhance the spectrum of what it does, but it's something completely different to the main game. And I thought it was
given that it's a free add-on, I'm certainly not complaining about it, but I just felt it doesn't really play to the game's strengths. It's a fun thing to do as a little bit of a difference, but it's not really something that's going to keep you coming back and back.
A spin-off. But
the actual game itself, that is going to keep you coming back because it's brilliant, and that's where we are with that. So, what else have we got to talk about? Does anyone else have anything to talk about?
Well,
we're not listening to John because we don't want to hear about NAC2.
Can I talk about Rime?
Yes, go on. I'm interested in Rime.
Okay.
Go on, I'm interested to see what you make of it because I enjoyed it, which probably means you fucking hated it.
I got bored.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I did.
What, Rime?
Yeah, I got bored. I washed up on a beach and I went one direction and there were some caves with stuff in that I couldn't do anything with. and I walked up to the top of a hill, and there was a thing on top which was sparkly, and I couldn't do anything with that. So I walked back down the hill and on the beach again. And I walked along the beach, and I walked up some steps, and there was some things I could do something with. And I did it with those things, and then I walked over and did the same thing with another thing somewhere else. And there was nothing else around. And then I found a dog, a fox, and I followed the fox through a hole. And there was something there. It was boring. Maybe
Do you know, John,
it's just
you have
too
no
gentle.
romance in your soul.
Maybe it's just too gentle.
You just like it rough. Don't you? That's what
Maybe
it
that's
is.
the thing. I didn't understand why, what, how the fuck, and who. And at least one of those has got to be answered
very
for me
quickly,
to be interesting.
in these last couple of podcasts, realizing that John doesn't like to be left not knowing what's going on. Because the start of Shadow of the Colossus, you've got no idea what's going on. You kind of dump there and you got to try and figure it out as you go through the game. And Rime's the same. In fact, Rime probably even less so, because there's not even a long cutscene that kind of explains roughly how you got there. It's just kind of you're there. But it is explained as the game goes on in a kind of flashback format. But John doesn't like to know. He's got to know. He's got to know up front.
Give me a purpose.
He doesn't know.
I need a purpose.
He's dogged off.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it.
So oh look, the fox has stopped, and I walk towards the fox, and the fox.
I want to get rich and set up a big company and give John a job. And when he turns up, I leave him in an office that's empty and say, "Oh, come back in a couple of
See
hours.
how you're doing,
and get you started." and then I'm just not going to come back for like 3 months. He'll be like George Costanza in that episode of I was going to say Friends, but Seinfeld, where he gets a job and he's no idea what he's doing, and he's just like bluffing it for months. I'd love to leave John in that situation. He'd probably just go insane and blow his brains out. Possibly taking half the office with him. But yeah, I don't know. I love that personally. I'm like, whoa, this is interesting. What's going on? I want to find out.
No.
Did you not find out with Senua's sacrifice?
Well, no,
I kind of felt that
I
starts off with you not really know what's happening.
I knew she was heading the purpose of her journey was to find the goddess of death or whatever in order to either bring her dead love back, whose head she's carrying around in a bag, or to set him to rest, or to join him. I mean, there's ambiguity there, but she has a mission, she has a purpose, and there's a direction in which to travel in order to get there. I get that.
At risk of bringing this up, how is that any different to the start of Shadow of the Colossus, where your bloke's got the horse and he's got his dead girlfriend on there and he's taking her to this place to try and bring her back from the dead?
Because Shadow of the Colossus is boring.
How do I hang up on John?
it's Senua's sacrifice is a small but very well defined world with things in that have a purpose, things in that are there for a reason, things in that you can interact with or work through or be aware of, or take notice of. Shadow of the Colossus is a flat, empty nothing, with nothing in, with nothing that serves any purpose, with no reason for being, and is just boring.
It just couldn't be more wrong. I mean, there's so much variety in that world.
But John's great at parties.
Yeah, he's a fucking bollock, isn't he? I'm going to have to just leave that, otherwise I'm going to get angry again, and you won't like me when I'm angry.
Are you still with Sony PR, John?
Funny enough, I haven't heard from them for a while.
Microsoft PR. Yeah.
That's the job of the consultancy role, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, talking of,
but I really like Knack2. I mean, I have to say,
fuck off. We're not interested. Talking of console fanboyism, actually, joking there about John failing to support Sony. You guys heard about Sea of Thieves? It sounds kind of boring to me. I'm disappointed. It sounded like an exciting game, and I've got an Xbox One. I could have plugged it back in and blown the dust off it. When did you borrow that off me, Johnny? Was it 2015 or 2016?
Oh, yeah, a couple of years ago now, yeah.
Maybe 2016, Johnny borrowed my Xbox One and it hasn't been plugged in since. But I thought, Sea of Thieves, a lot of talk, a lot of chatter. I'm like, this is cool. And then reading about it now, after a few hours, it seems like it's like No Man's Sky.
It's No Man's Sky, yeah.
It's a great idea. It's a console exclusive that they've massively pimped up. That sounds really fun. And then you play it, you have a great time for a few hours, and then you get really bored. That's the vibe I've got. And
massive sea, but not deep enough to drown in. That's what I've got.
Oh, that's very clever. Yeah. I was like, I don't want. Because I don't want to be like some kind of console fanboy. Because No Man's Sky was shit, and that was Sony exclusive, and this is Xbox, and it's a shame. I don't wish failure on anyone, but it just seems like a disappointing game. From what everyone said, the reviews are just like. It's an interesting start, but can they expand it?
And the pattern was set for that, surely, with Black Flag. I mean, Black Flag showed you how to do that kind of game really pretty well. And all you had to do was it just seems like, I mean, I read a review. I read a review that, yes, it is rare, yeah. I read a review that Sea of Thieves has 3 types of fetch quest to actually earn gold, and then everything else is just like trying to steal it off other people. And apparently that's fun. Battling with other players, trying to steal their gold, but with the problem that anybody who's got a big enough ship with 3 or 4 players on it will kick your ass if you're on your own or got less than that. So you kind of get battered unless you have a big ship. So unless you've got a lot of mates, you're going to lose, much like life. But yeah, and they just said that the free fetch quests are unbelievably tedious. So to actually get the gold is so boring that it's not really worth the effort. So they were like, who's going to bother to get the gold? Because it's only fun to steal it off other people. So it's not going to be that much actually floating about. But I don't know. But the review, was like, interesting. This I thought was interesting. The review I read said, at the moment it's very kind of, you get bored of it quick. There's not a lot going on, but there's a great platform there that they could potentially expand. And it wouldn't be the first time a game has been turned around from a poor start. And it said, for example, and then they mentioned
Siege was one thing that they mentioned.
Yeah, they mentioned Siege, Rainbow Six Siege, and I'm like, what the fuck are you on about? Siege was always a brilliant game, and they didn't really change it very much. They expanded it, but they didn't really change it. I didn't understand that. They mentioned No Man's Sky, that was it. No Man's Sky and Siege were the 2 games, Rainbow Six Siege. And I was like, I agree on No Man's Sky. I've heard it's got a lot better. I've not gone back to it because they missed that moment for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rainbow Six Siege, that was good. That was a good game.
Siege got quite poor reviews at first, I think. Siege.
Yeah, do you think essentially out of the box it is 12 operators and then 2 game modes over 6 maps? But it wasn't until you played it for a long period of time where you saw the depth.
I mean, I'm not saying it necessarily reviewed well, but they didn't change the game radically. They didn't go, right, that doesn't work, let's change it. They didn't change it. They didn't add tons of modes. They basically did very little to it for the first couple of years, apart from adding new maps, adding new operators. And it wasn't because they were crying out for new maps or new operators. It was just, that's what they were doing. And I don't know. I was very surprised to read this article saying that Siege had been poor and then been improved, because obviously they're always tweaking and balancing, but it was great from day one. I enjoyed that game. I don't understand what they meant by that, but No Man's Sky, I 100% see where they're coming from with that, and apparently Sea of Thieves is very much more like that. I mean, hopefully we'll get someone like Victor on next time. He's an Xbox gamer, and he might have got Sea of Thieves. So I'd like to hear from someone who's actually played it. Obviously, this is just pure secondhand. It's like saying, I don't like this brand of cigarettes because I've smelled them in a bar. You need to.
I read today that there's 2 million users on PC and Xbox.
Yeah.
So it's obviously done.
But how long?
Well.
How long would they last? Though that's your question, isn't it? Because No Man's Sky probably had 2 million people on PS4 in the first 10 minutes, and they just didn't last.
But again, 2 million's a decent chunk of people, isn't it? When you think about it.
I mean, like I say, I don't want it to fail by any stretch.
Yeah, when games used to get to 1 million, you used to go, wow, that's 1 million copies. But
gaming's so much more mainstream now, isn't it? It's like,
but when you think like that, so I always think this, right? So when you look at, I mean, like, Sea of Thieves isn't a good example because it's probably cut price. But when you think like a million copies means 40 quid a copy, that's 40 million pounds. And even if you drop it down to like 30 quid, 30 million pounds, or even if they get a cut of that 40, say they get 50% cut from retailer, that's still 20 million pounds. That's a hell of a lot of money.
How little they actually get from that.
I don't know, but I mean that money's floating around somewhere, and like there's retail's dying, online's booming, and all of this is going to a developer and a publisher.
Yeah, but you would.
I mean,
either way, it would scare the pants off you if you realise how much they spend on marketing for stuff like that.
Well, this is one of the things that I've been listening on that IGN's podcast of the developers and stuff like that. I'm guessing a lot of it doesn't get filtered down, but I mean, there's a lot of money that goes somewhere.
I've just done a quick search on game development costs, and just to throw some money out there, Valve spent $10 million marketing Left 4 Dead. That's what they spent on marketing Left 4 Dead. It took between 5 and
that's a lot of
10
money.
million to develop a PS2 game versus 800,000 to 1.7 million for the original PlayStation. So the costs are going up.
It's interesting you say about that marketing. My company done an advert, and it was a 30-second advert, and it cost £4 million to advertise that on TV in London, and it cost a further £4 million to do the rest of the entirety of the UK. Amazing.
That's
isn't it?
£8 million for 30 seconds. That's a really high class hooker.
Well, it's probably repeated, but that's how much it costs just to advertise in London.
It's interesting that London is the same as the rest of the UK, because population-wise that doesn't make sense. But
Yeah, it's like
London's
10,
quite
15%,
affluent,
but
isn't it?
probably all the wealthy people live in London. Yeah.
Yeah.
All you need is some Russian oligarch to see it and buy 700,000 of whatever it is.
I buy all the products. Go away, Vladimir. We're not talking about
I was going to say,
you,
was he a meerkat?
So I bought I played I'm changing the subject now. I played PUBG on mobile.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I heard about this, but I haven't tried it.
So I've got a new I got an iPhone 8. I'm on the iPhone upgrade program. I decided I'm lucky enough that I could have finances are fluid enough at the moment that I could have bought it up front. It's what I usually do with phones, just in one big cash payment. But I wanted to go on the iPhone upgrade program because it's sort of like having insurance, just not quite. I quite like going to the Apple store, and I feel like an upper class citizen now. I'm like, I walk in now and I say, I'm on the iPhone upgrade program. They're like, oh, okay, carry on, sir. And I go in there and I smash up the iPads and I fiddle with all the Macs and I walk out of there with whatever I want because I'm on the iPhone upgrade program.
You're like a platinum Apple card.
Yeah, quite. And I've got a wireless charger. Has anyone got on the wireless charging train?
Yeah. I bought one when I got my X. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I was never that bothered about it, but it's cool. Yeah,
I feel like
It's
I'm in
cool,
fucking
it's
Star
cool.
Trek. It's amazing.
Yeah, a little bit. It's a bit magical. But I sort of thought today, was that pointless? Was that completely pointless? And I thought it kind of was. And then I remembered, well, actually, I'm going to buy some wireless earphones soon. And going forward, everything's going to be wireless charging. It's not just at the moment, it's just my smartphone. But going forward, things like TV remotes maybe, but like PlayStation controllers and earphones and all the wireless speakers and probably laptops eventually, it's all going to be wirelessly charged. So I'm sort of taking that first step, and it'll probably be quite universal.
So I wasn't that bothered because I was like, just like wireless charging, like to plug in one cable, or I had a dock, so I just used to put my phone on a dock, and I was like, it's not that big a deal. But to be honest, when I'm in bed and my phone goes bzzz, and I just reach over, pick it up, look at it, and go, oh, there's nothing, and just drop it back on the thing. That's where you save not a lot of time exactly, but you know what I mean? It's just convenient. You can just pick it up, put it back down, Bob's your uncle.
Not only do I feel like Captain Kirk, but
You look
oh, thank you.
You're more like Captain Picard with that haircut.
Thanks. But
Actually, John's more like Captain Picard.
The main reason it made sense to me, Simon, because I don't feel like you have to justify it, because I think it's sensible. Because the last two iPhones that I had, the charging thing at the bottom of the phone fucked up, and that's the reason my last two iPhones I've had to upgrade, because it stopped charging, and I didn't want to pay to get it fixed.
Is there some stuff getting in there?
Yeah, so you got like like belly button fluff or whatever stuck in there, and you pull that all out, and it still dies. It's still because I think similar to your point, like where people are texting me in bed or something like that, I yank the phone off of the charger.
So basically, what you're saying is
You broke it. Yeah.
The technology has now
iPhone,
allowed
it's
you to be
Apple's
as clumsy as you like.
Yeah, I guess
That's basically what
if this was an episode of Suits and I was on the stand, that's
That's
what
basically-
Harvey Specter would come to the conclusion of. Yes.
So PUBG Mobile, it's basically the PC game, but PUBG is like a battle royale game for people who don't know. So there's 100 players worldwide all playing from wherever on the internet, which is this thing. I'll cover that later. And you jump out, 100 of you jump out of a plane, and you go onto this big sort of island, and you have to find guns and armor, and then when you see other players, you have to kill them, and eventually the last man standing wins. And it's on mobile now, and I think it was free. I didn't pay anything. I was just playing it. I assume you can buy new cosmetic items and things with loot boxes, and that's how they monetize it. But I was playing it, and it's one of those old style sort of games where you have, like, on the left hand side of the screen there's a kind of translucent joystick, and on the right side there's like fire buttons, and there's like a big button. I was like, how do I fire when I had a gun? And there was a big circular button with a bullet, and you keep clicking that to fire, which I thought was a little bit odd. And you know, I think most people who play it will say, look, it's actually surprisingly good. The graphics aren't bad, the frame rate's not so bad, and you know, it's the game you would play on the PC, just on a tiny screen.
I guess you are playing it on like the latest and greatest iPhone, though, aren't you?
Ish, yeah. I mean, not the 10, but
but it's got the same processor as the 10.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Yeah,
Can you make it into a controller? Because I played one game and I couldn't get on with using the translucent joystick.
It probably has controller support. I'll have to look that up, and maybe I could Bluetooth my PS4 controller to it. I don't know. Probably not.
No, you can't. But I have an iOS Bluetooth controller, and I could try it. And find out whether
I just imagine it'd be a massive advantage if you could. Because
if it works on, if I could play it on my iPad on a 13-inch screen with my controller connected, I'll probably become like 99th out of 100. You know, because I'll be that good.
I mean, what I will say is, as impressive as it is fucking awful, though. I mean, in all fairness, like, it is awful. Like, even if you're playing a controller, you just be like, this is. I mean, I am playing an FPS on a phone. This ain't right. And the frame rate's good. It's impressive that it's running. Like, I was playing it and thinking, blimey, this is impressive. But it's still just like an absolutely risable frame rate. It must be about 20 FPS. It's not the best. But it's a weird thing, which I played for a few minutes and thought, yeah, okay, they did that, but I'm not going to play it ever again, probably.
I definitely want to try it out now. I got grid auto support on my iPad and played that with the controller, and it's just as good as the PS3 version. It's quite impressive. But I'm wondering what that would be like with a controller, assuming it even supports them, because it might not, in the interest of fairness, you know, because as Jonny says, bit of an advantage, isn't it, if you've got a full-blown controller while everyone else is fiddling about with the screen.
I'll tell you what, it's interesting, because Fortnite, and I'm not sure if this is the same with PUBG, but Fortnite, they have hoppers, I think that's the phrase, where it match makes phone, because they've got the same, Fortnite's available on phones as well, and they match make phone players in with console and PC players.
Is
which
that
is
really?
just like, wow, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I understand why they would do it, and it's impressive, but why, if you were playing on the phone, you go on the phone only hopper, surely. Like, yeah.
What's everyone's thoughts on this cross play? Because like Sony's firmly against it, aren't they? Like they're just not playing ball.
That's the
narrative. Because they're winning. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. So like a lot of people saying. So a lot of people like the guys at Epic are saying Fortnite. You're showing us a white phone.
You're supposed to ignore that and then just let John look at it. No, it's not working, is it?
Like they're saying the main reason that it's a problem is because of the fact that like people aren't being able to play with their friends, whereas if people aren't on the PS4, I don't feel like I'm missing out on the players that are playing on the on the Xbox One or PC.
Well, I think from Sony's perspective, it like why would you in like a competitive sense, why would you the main reason for wanting crossplay would be if you had a dwindling player base, you didn't have enough players, surely. But Sony, in most cases of PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, Sony are going to be the ones struggling least for players on most games. So it sort of makes sense why they would be reluctant to do it. I mean, that's a perspective. I don't know if that's actually the reasoning.
When Xbox was king, they weren't banging on about let's have cross-play with PlayStation, were they? When the 360 was smashing it, they weren't interested because they had the lead.
Yeah,
and so I don't see why Sony appears to be the only people getting shit for it this time. Nobody ever said that about Xbox.
But I think there's more opportunities now to have certainly console and PC crossplay. I think there are more games now that are just out.
Console and PC.
Free.
That's
and the architectures are the same now as well, which is probably a big thing.
You can play against PC players on Rocket League, but not Xbox players.
I just don't feel
sure,
like
sure. I'm
missing
just
out.
saying, like, why back in the 360 days, it was less of a possibility that you could have cross-play technically, I think, compared with now.
No,
I think that's
I don't
probably
think
why.
that the platforms have changed that much, really. I don't see there's
Well,
any
the PS,
technical
I mean,
reason why it couldn't be
PS3
done then.
A PS3 is very different architecture. Like, I'm assuming that causes problems, whereas now it's all x86.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of like an online game, you're just passing like location data to and fro, aren't you? It's not really matter if it's on a PC or a Nintendo Switch or a PS4. It just, I just feel like it's like Sony getting the shitty end of the stick here. Oh, Sony won't do it. Sony won't do it. Yeah, but Microsoft wouldn't do it when it was Xbox was king. Maybe Sony never asked because they were too proud. Microsoft are definitely keen on it, and they're just like keep saying, "Oh, Sony won't let us do it," and you're like, "Well, yeah, because
I mean, for me, I just don't feel like I'm missing out.
No.
I don't feel like there's going to be a massive benefit to all of us by cross-play, and I'm guessing there's a benefit to a certain amount of people.
But there's no massive benefit to Sony or Microsoft because you literally sell consoles by like when this generation came around. Yeah, everybody went from the Xbox 360. In my group of people I play with regularly, everyone got a PS4. And if everybody had decided to get an Xbox One, we'd probably all still be playing that. It is so like, if I could go buy the Xbox and everyone else bought the PS4 and we could still play, what's the advantage in me buying a PS4 then? Why would I? I wouldn't bother, would I?
I would like to see it one day because it would be so great to have like Call of Duty or Rainbow Six Siege or all these competitive games where one side was on one console and the other side was on another. I think that would be so much fun.
Like literal fanboy wars.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great if it was just like Xbox versus PlayStation? I just like odd weekends here and there. I'd definitely get involved. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, maybe if it was a one-off event, that would be kind of fun. Or like every game had like a cross-play event or something. That'd be quite cool. So, John, what I was trying to do when I was waving my phone at you was ask how long we've been on because it seems like a long time.
It is a long time. I did actually type a reply, but you haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it. I did keep going back to look with the chat. I've got my window on full screen, so it's kind of like I've got one person in each corner. It's great. It looks like a Gorillaz album cover.
It's the chat. We've been going for a little over an hour and a half.
That is a very long time. So I guess it is time to wrap it up and hand over to Simon for Simon's game.
Hello and welcome to Simon's Game. So the current scores I have noted down are 8 to Tony, 2 to the guests, and 3 to producer John. I assume that's correct.
Yeah, I'm afraid it is.
Yeah, it's not been going well for fans of the guests and producer
and
John.
Gaming generally.
I think largely it's fans of anyone but Tony, really. It's
but fans of Tony have been rewarded for their long-standing faith.
well, I am the president of my own fan club and also the only member.
Well, there was that treasurer guy, wasn't there? Oh, but he turned out to be a vagrant, didn't he?
Yeah.
He turned out to be my hand with a sock on it and a pair of googly eyes.
That's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Also, my very first lover.
Yeah. There we go. You didn't have to say it, but fine. Thanks.
We're there. We've done it. It's been said. Sorry,
right,
Simon, I believe you had a game.
Yeah, quite. So I'll read a series of 10 clues. This time aim a video game, and our 3 contestants must compete to be first to guess my identity. They get 1 guess per clue. The guess they say stop and blurt out their answer. All decisions are final, and I will make that decision over the course of several weeks, culminating in the release of smoke from a chimney. So it is in your interest to
It's original. It's never been done before.
Cause a dispute. Yeah. Clue number 1. I was directed by a man called Xavier.
Stop. Is it A Way Out?
A Way Out, no. It's a game we didn't talk about during the podcast.
Oh, we were going to actually. Maybe next time.
But it was important. It seemed important to me at the time to tell you about that I'd bought a new iPhone. So we did.
Is it a game or a game character, Simon?
It's a
It's a game. Fuck's sake!
It's a game character. It's a game character. I was directed by a man called Xavier.
I was put up to asking that by my boss at work, who listens to this, and he said, "You've got to ask Simon if it's a game or a game character."
I get quite annoyed by things like Brexit and Russia's arrogance, but none of it annoys me as much as you asking. If it's a game. Clue 2. I have a Metacritic rating of 73 on PS4. So clue 2, I have a Metacritic rating of 73 on PS4. Clue 3. I'm based on events taking place in Iran, Somalia, and Moscow.
Stop. Rainbow Six
Papers,
Siege.
please.
What was your Tony? Do you have one? Who said what?
Papers,
Tony.
Papers, please. I have.
Is incorrect. John, what was
Rainbow
yours?
Six Siege.
Rainbow Six Siege is correct. Well done, producer John. You smashed
Oh, producer
Well
John
done.
gets one right.
it. How do you get that right? It's a first-person shooter as well.
That is
He's smart. He knows how my
embarrassing
brain
for
You know
works.
how
Look.
That's embarrassing.
You
for
know
the
how
guest.
occasionally you think, I need to find out more about this game, and then you read about it and you think, that sounds really good, and you look at it and you think, I can't play that, and it really pisses me off. It was the locations. I just remember the locations.
Yeah, so I'll start from the top. So I was directed by a man called Xavier. I can't remember his second name now. Xavier Marquis, something like that. It's a really cool name. He's the director of the game, creative director. Clue 2 was I have a Metacritic rating of 73 on PS4. As I mentioned covertly earlier in the podcast, it actually got one or two dicey reviews at the start. It got like a couple of 6 out of 10s and so on and so forth. But it also got quite a lot of 8s and 9s. Well, it was vaguely interesting, but it's all relative. Clue 3, I'm based on events taking place in Iran, Somalia, and Moscow. So a lot of the maps were based on terrorist or hostage situations over the years. So the Iran embassy thing, and well, actually, I don't know if it's the Iran embassy
No, that was
thing.
in London.
Let's just swerve away from.
There is one
that,
that's
but-
definitely an embassy though of some kind. Yeah.
Yeah. There was the Mogadishu, it was the Lufthansa plane. So Somalia,
I
there
think,
was a Lufthansa.
was it not the US
hostage
embassy
situation.
in Tehran that it was based on? The
Yes,
siege
correct.
that
Yes,
took
that's
place
what it
in
would be. Yeah.
Yeah, that plane level is really fun on Rainbow Six Siege. I like that a lot. Where you got a plane on the airfield and you're like attacking the plane. That's really quite an interesting level.
And then Moscow, there was a theatre siege or something. I don't know. My
There's a map
My,
called Cafe Dostoevsky.
20th century.
Which is, it's
That's
like a
probably
big
what- yeah.
restaurant kind of place.
My 20th century history is just not up to scratch, much like all my other historical knowledge. Clue 4, I used to be a Patriot. So the game was originally
Yeah, it was
developed,
the
the Rainbow Six game was Rainbow Six Patriots, but which had some of the footage they released had a moment where it was press X or hold square to kiss wife, which is up there with and actually predated the press X to pay respect in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare.
Wasn't press circle to kiss wife or something like in a stealth game like Dishonored or something?
Maybe it was certainly in Rainbow Six Patriots.
Okay.
Check it out. Fact fans and kissing fans. Clue 5. I have a heavy focus on environmental destruction. Clue 6. I was released in 2015. Clue 7. I was nominated for Esports Game of the Year at the 2017 Golden Joystick Awards. Clue 8, I'm a Tom Clancy game. Clue 9, I feature Jackals and Valkyries, which is 2 of the different operators. Jackals actually both of them are quite top tier operators. Even by our standards, I'm such a nerd. Clue 10 doesn't exist because I figured you'd get it by then. So there we go. So that takes us to producer John. You've opened up a little bit of a gap over the horrible, smelly gas. Johnny, you were very quiet there. You didn't do anything. Were you biding your time?
Yeah, I was shit on that one.
Okay.
planning a late surge. Do you know what? You could have put that I'm a Tom Clancy game much sooner. That doesn't narrow it down much,
See,
does
that
it?
would be that was
I
actually
suppose
going to be the only other clue that would have led me into that. If I hadn't have known the locations and stuff, Tom Clancy, I think I would have gone from, because I know that he wrote the original stuff.
Yeah, because when you said like Iran and Somalia, and that's what made me think Papers, Please, that kind of political borders crossing, refugees, that kind of thing. That's where I went with that. But you're right.
Yeah. So well done. That's a Dear Diary moment, producer John. Well done. So that takes us to yeah, you should be pleased with that. So score. It was worth getting up today after all. Clue. Christ, the scores. Tony has 8. The guests have 2. Producer John has 4. That's the end of Simon's game.
A very unusual Simon's game there, not least because John won and Simon actually managed to do the outline, and then nobody talked over the music when John pressed the button. It was remarkable.
It all seems to be working.
So we
doesn't it?
look behind. As we look behind the curtain at a rare moment of professionalism. So yeah, well, thanks everybody for listening. It's been a good one, quite a long one, but a good one. So thanks for coming. Thanks for co-hosting, Simon.
That's all right. You're welcome as always.
Thanks for guesting, Johnny. We'll definitely see you soon.
Yeah, see you soon, mate.
And thanks for producing, John.
Thank you. It's a work in progress.
This is. Are you actually trying to polish this tail? I'm curious.
I do try. Yeah, I know it doesn't really work out that well, but I do try.
He keeps getting shit on the brush.
I was going to say it's a bit like herding cats, isn't it? Trying to get us to produce a professional sounding podcast.
Well, you say us.
But then if it was professional sounding, would it be balls on the
say
show?
us, Tony. I mean, it's I mean, you're painting with a broader brush than necessarily I or potentially Simon would there.
I get it. Fuck you. Well, yeah, that's it. I'm going to go and cry now. Going to just go and have a big old cry.
But don't forget to tell everybody where they can find us.
Yes, yeah. Oh, you can find us. Are we still on Facebook?
Yes.
Or I suppose people. We are still on Facebook. I just thought, with all these privacy things that maybe Facebook's already told them that we've got a new podcast out.
Cambridge Analytica surprisingly found that we have a direct crossover with Trump's voter base.
Yeah, I mean,
leveraging that.
Directly the opposite. You see, I saw a really brilliant meme the other day, and it was a kid talking to Mark Zuckerberg, and the kid says, "My dad says you're spying on us," and Mark Zuckerberg says, "He's not your real dad."
Excellent. So, Facebook then.
Yes, so we're on Facebook, facebook.com/balls on a tray, and we're on YouTube now. Well, you have to search for Balls on a Tray, don't you?
Got YouTube.
And we've got
search
producer John's. Yep, and we've got producer John's sticky bit on there. And are you putting the podcast on there as well?
The podcast will be going up, yes.
And the podcast will be on there too if you want to play it in the background on your desktop machine rather than playing it through iOS podcasts or Android or whatever it is you use to download this podcast and listen. So, check it out.
We don't have any Android listeners, do we? Sorry.
I'm sure we do.
Surprisingly.
Victor, he's a guest. He's an Android guy. Victor's an Android guy.
Still, despite the fact we try to alienate them.
He comes on. He's an Android guy.
Is he? No, he's not.
Yeah, Sean went to Android a few years ago, and I've never forgiven him.
God, I'm going to be sick.
That's why he's not been on as often, to be fair. Yeah. But yeah, in all seriousness, whatever advice you choose is your choice to listen to our podcast. So unlike Simon, you don't have to.
Don't listen if you're on Android.
You haven't got a big enough fan base
for you
saying to don't listen.
Yeah, we can't afford to lose 50% of our full
That's
listeners.
how strongly I feel, Johnny.
So, well, great. Okay, well, thanks for listening. And you've totally derailed me. And we'll see you all next time.
Does it say... It says a lot, doesn't it, that I feel genuinely betrayed, confused, and lost on finding out that Sean is on Android.